I've always loved football, and it's always been somewhere. It's the old cliche, isn't it? When you're playing football, you forget about all your other worries, and that was definitely true for me. That's always been true for me. But I think now that my life's changed a little bit, now I've got Max and things like that, I probably appreciate it more, because that's my time. That's my time to be me and to relax and do what I enjoy doing. And I also think I'm probably a better footballer now because of all the things we've been through, because I'm probably more determined, probably work harder at things and I want to achieve things. So I think it's definitely made me a better footballer because of it, and made me love it more than I did, and I didn't think that was possible. I started playing football when I was 7 or 8 for a local team. I used to play with the boys in primary school because obviously when I was a kid there wasn't really any girls teams at that age. So I signed for Middlesbrough Centre of Excellence when I was in secondary school, when I just started secondary school. And then I was playing for that alongside my local team. And then as I went into women's football, we took our whole team into women's football together. Eventually people went to play higher, like everybody went off and went to university, so that team sort of folded. And then I looked for another team, and that's when I ended up playing for Norton.
If I had to describe Vicky, she's probably a winner. She goes on the pitch 110%. She'll do anything she can to win a game of football. Whether it's training, whether it's matches, she's a winner. And that rubs off on, like I said, the squad, whether they're being a senior member. And it's helped us this year massively.
So I'm actually married to Chris, who's now our manager at Norton and Stockton Ancients. We met through coaching, and then I was already playing for Norton then, and Chris used to just come and watch when I used to play. And the girls were saying like, oh, can't you get Chris to come and be the manager? And Chris has always said, I am never coaching you. so then it took some persuasion. But yeah, we talked him into it, and now he probably loves it more than I do.
So Vicky being pregnant was a bit of a shock at first, but happy shocked. We kept it quiet. We even said she was injured for a little bit, so we kept it from the players and everything. She sat on the sidelines.
So when we first went for an early gender scan, they couldn't really tell us, they couldn't be 100% clear, but they thought Max was a girl. So it's like, oh yes, I'm going to have a daughter who's going to be a footballer. But then when we went for the proper scan at the hospital, I had to go by myself, and then that's when I found out it was a boy. So then I had to come back and tell Chris, and he didn't believe me. In terms of like pregnancy and stuff, that was quite smooth and straightforward, and then it was just obviously as a case of the day when I had Max, I just woke up and felt a little bit funny, a bit uncomfortable.
Well, Max has always been a shock. He's always kept us on our toes, and I always remember the time when he was born. So Vic had felt something in the morning, and she wasn't due. But she'd felt something, she said, I'm going to go to the hospital and check it out.
It wasn't getting any better, it was getting a little bit more painful, so Chris said, why don't you go to the hospital? And I had to go by myself because of COVID, so you weren't allowed anybody with you. And then I was at the hospital in the morning for like a couple of hours, and then a doctor came and checked me and said, oh, like, you're fully dilated, like the baby's coming right now and there's nothing we can do about it. So that was all a little bit panic stations. And then that was when Chris was allowed to come. He just got there, just in time, and Max was born like 4 hours after I started to feel any sort of pain. I don't really know what Chris was thinking at that point. I don't know if he'd realised the seriousness of having a baby born at 29 weeks.
I was just praying I don't miss it. It's like I say, I completely out of the blue. So I was in shock, and my main thing was the baby all right? Was Vicky all right?
I think I was in that much pain at that point that I couldn't really think. And then I remember Max being born, and I remember hearing him cry, which I thought, well, that must be a good thing, he's breathing. And I remember seeing him, he was like red, and he was tiny, and he just didn't even look like a baby. And Max had to be ventilated straight away, so they took him to like the special care. When you first have a baby, usually you're the one who looks after the baby. We just had to move out the way and like let other people just get on with what they were doing, and it was like we were on the outside, like watching it. The consultant came and said, oh, would we be able to have a word with you both? So we had to go to this little side room. And still to this day, this is the worst day of my life, no matter what. Like, I'll never ever forget every single word of that conversation and being sat in that room and the consultant saying to us, like, we've done the brain scan and that, and I naively said, oh, did it go okay? Like, was it all right? Still not realising there's a reason you've sat me in this side room. And I remember them saying to me, Max has got bleeds on both sides of his brain, and explained like different grades of bleeds and what that means. One side of his brain was the worst case scenario, grade 4 bleed, and the other side was a grade 3. And I remember them sitting there and saying to us, we can't tell you if your son's going to walk or talk. Your son might be disabled, and at this stage, we can't tell you. And I think, like, nothing in the world will ever prepare you for somebody to say that about your child, especially at 4 days old. And I didn't want to tell other people that Max might be disabled. Like, it was as if I was ashamed because it was my fault. And I think even Chris didn't get that. Like, the big thing for me is that was my fault. I couldn't look after him and I didn't protect him. So that took me a long time to get over that. Probably well past his first birthday, like, I blamed myself and they couldn't explain to me why he was premature. They didn't know the reason. There was no sign of infection. Like, he literally just, it was as if my body wasn't good enough, and that was difficult because I blamed myself that my son might be disabled. So that was difficult, especially because then you didn't really have support. You weren't meeting other parents at the hospital because you couldn't be in the same room as anyone else. I couldn't really come and see my family, so we were sort of really isolated. So that probably made it even more difficult, I think. Max has his own personality. He knows what he wants. He's really funny and he's really loving. He can be quite shy with new people, but once you've kind of got his trust, he's the most loving little boy in the world. And although he's not talking properly yet, he is starting to talk now. He definitely gets his point across and definitely makes you know what he wants. I definitely think, like, the whole situation's brought us closer together, and it's made us appreciate each other and appreciate little things that you maybe don't have time for. It's probably made us slow down. I probably went through life thinking nothing bad happens to us, really. I didn't worry about anything. If you'd have told me a statistic about how many babies are born prematurely, it never would have crossed my mind it would happen to me. I just probably took it for granted that everything was all right. So having Max, while obviously I wish he didn't have his struggles that he has, he's taught me loads about myself and he's made me a better person. And I think he's probably made Chris a better person, and he's made us grateful for what we have.
I can't put into words how proud I am of him. There's no way I can describe it.
Yeah.
What he's been through, things that we've been through, it's doesn't compare.
I think Max has gone through more in his almost 3 years of living than most of us have ever gone through. Seeing what he goes through and the appointments he has, and he has x-rays and he has injections and all the different things that he has, and he just takes it in his stride. It's all he knows. Like, he doesn't know any of it. He doesn't know that little boys don't go to the hospital all the time and see doctors all the time and do physiotherapy all the time. Like, his bravery, without him even knowing how brave he was, is absolutely phenomenal. Like, I'm in awe of him, and I just hope he continues that as he gets older and he starts to understand more, and he just keeps pushing himself, and he's resilient, and that's just the things I would want my son to be anyway. I would want him to be resilient, I would want him to be brave, and I would want him to set a good example to other people. So I just think, yes, his journey is a little bit different to what it maybe was in my head was going to be, but that's his journey, and I just want him to keep doing it and keep doing it with a smile on his face.